Before I was at the GC, I was in Cape Town, where I'm from, in South Africa, and I was doing my master's there. I actually took a break from academia between my undergrad and master's. I'd worked for a few years in publishing, and then I just really missed philosophy and wanted to go back into it. So I did my MA and then came to New York. I actually got interested in philosophy kind of by accident. It was on my first day of university. I hadn't intended to take it, but I went to an informational lecture and it sounded really fascinating, and so I signed up for Intro to Philosophy. And after that first year, I just really loved it, and I carried on. And after I'd been working for a few years, I really again just missed it terribly, and I realized that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to come to the Graduate Center really primarily because it has an excellent faculty in a number of areas, and primarily the ones I'm interested in. And I'd also done my MA on a problem that had been raised by Professor Kripke in his piece, A Puzzle About Belief. And so the chance to be able to work with him and be involved with the Kripke Center here at in the philosophy program was a big draw for me. And I also really wanted to come and live in New York City and be here right in the middle of Manhattan by the Empire State Building. It's a really exciting place to be. At the moment, I'm working on my dissertation. I defended my prospectus last semester, and I'm trying to sort of work out some kinks and really get stuck into that. The dissertation is on the conditional, the ordinary language conditional. What I'm aiming to do is provide a logical account of the ordinary language conditional, and one that is truth conditional in the sense that not being quite truth functional, but it does give us answers of truth values that are of true and false for various conditional statements. So that's primarily if-then statements, roughly speaking. If this happens, then that will happen, although there are a huge variety of conditionals. And some accounts suggest that we can't really give truth conditions, that the conditional is has various degrees of assertability, or we should give it various degrees of credence. But my views suggest that there are definite truth values. One of the big problems with the conditional essentially is that we have the material conditional of classical logic, which has very clear, straightforward truth conditions, and we know that if the antecedent, the first part of the conditional, is true and the consequent, the second part of the conditional, is false, then the whole thing is false. And in every other combination of truth values, it comes out true. The trouble is that this really doesn't seem to map onto the way we use conditionals in our everyday lives. Ordinary speakers have judgments that differ significantly from this in many ways. And so philosophers have come up with a great number of theories to try to account for this division. And sorry, that's my train of thought. So there have been many attempts to give an account of what's going on in logical terms when we make these intuitive judgments about whether a conditional is true or false. We seem to be able to do this very reliably in ordinary life for most cases, but it's very hard to give a logical account that takes into account all those sorts of cases and many kind of problematic examples. And a lot of philosophers tend to divide the conditional into two groupings. So on the one hand, the counterfactual or subjunctive conditional, and those are conditionals about things that aren't actual. So counterfactual, for instance, if Hitler had won World War II, then we'd all be speaking German now. That's not about the world as it actually is, but how it might have been, for instance. And the other category that's usually identified is something along the lines of indicative conditionals. So ones that are straightforwardly about the actual world. But there are various problems in making the division in this way. Firstly, counterfactuals are often sort of conflated with subjunctive conditionals, ones that are in the subjunctive mood. But that's a very degraded grammatical category in English. It's died out to quite a significant extent. And it seems odd to pin this kind of logical category to just the sort of vagaries of a particular grammatical quirk. But the indicative category, that is being identified grammatically. And so there are things which may be indicative in form, but could refer to counterfactual situations. And so these delineations don't seem to separate the categories perfectly accurately. There seems to be some overlap, some lack of clarity, and also there are many instances where we make pretty clear judgments about the truth or falsity of a conditional without yet knowing whether it's going to be something that actually will happen or just could have happened but didn't. An example of the kind of conditionals we're thinking about, if I say, if you give me $5, I'll go to the store and buy you some candy. And you may judge that that's true because you know me. Let's say I'm very reliable, I'm trustworthy, I won't steal your money. And yet you don't know whether it's actually going to come to pass that you are going to give me $5, or whether it's just the case that had you given me $5, I would have done that. So we make judgments all the time about, well, is this true? Is this false? Without having to wait for the time period that conditional is concerned with to already have passed. And that's the major motivation for me, as well as the problems with these sort of traditional divisions, that the reason I want to give a unified kind of account of the conditional. So the approach that I'm taking is to use a ceteris paribus clause to exclude the kinds of things that we take to be beyond the ordinary run of things. So the idea is that we judge conditionals according to whether the antecedent is true and the ceteris paribus clause is satisfied. So that means all things being equal. So if I say, I promise if it's sunny tomorrow, I'll take you to the beach. There seems to be an implicit ceteris paribus clause in that antecedent, meaning that if it's sunny and the beach isn't overrun by spiders, then I will take you. No one who uses conditionals or evaluates them in ordinary life expects that it's going to be fulfilled no matter what. And so the work is really in working out exactly how to put that ceteris paribus clause into it in formal terms in the logical system, and then give a thorough defense of that and supporting why I believe that does perfectly model ordinary usage. I've presented a talk at the Kripke lunchtime series on a much earlier iteration of my dissertation work, and that was really helpful, getting feedback from fellow graduate students and faculty on my ideas and what I was working on. And yeah, it was very helpful in sort of shaping my thinking and revising it a good deal. I really like the Graduate Centre. I've been very happy here as a student. I feel that there's a really collegial atmosphere amongst the students. It's always felt very supportive to me. I haven't felt that I'm sort of in competition with my fellow grad students. I mean, not that there aren't times where I haven't felt intimidated in the seminar or nervous about speaking up, but I never feel like I'm sort of competing with people to sort of perform or show off. And I really like the situation of it here in New York, in the heart of Manhattan. And I particularly like that it's a public school. I think it gets, certainly in my cohort, a much broader group of students. And it also means that we have the chance to teach in the many CUNY schools, the undergraduate schools. And that's been a great experience. I've been really happy to get the chance to teach those students. I'm involved with the Doctoral Students Council, the DSC. At the moment, I'm the philosophy program rep, along with another student. And I represent the philosophy program on the body that brings together all the programs across the Graduate Centre. And in the past, I've been involved with the Doctoral Students Steering Committee, working on issues of governance and student support. I think what I like the most about living in New York is that with such a large population, it sustains even very minority and fringe interests and views. So even the weirdest or the least popular kind of pastime or movement has enough people that you can actually support having its own store or group or meetup, and that makes for a really exciting and interesting city.